there's chat coming in. Hi. Yes. So here's what happened for those of you who are just jumping on or jumped on. I clicked the live button and I was immediately live. And with other software, I'm used to a countdown. So apparently I was live staring at myself. So I stopped it and then I started it again. So I hope you're here. Good to see you. Oh, excellent. I see Reed. I see Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Good to see you. So I'm hoping that this is streaming in 2 places, maybe even 3. Hopefully on Facebook, on our More Than a Wheelin' business page, and on YouTube, our More Than a Wheelin' channel, and hopefully in our new Remote Life Reinvention Facebook group. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that you are finding me somewhere today. And if you're joining me live, thank you. I'm learning some new software. I keep calling it software. I don't know why. Hey, Mike, I'm so glad you're here because I could use a good tech friend. I'm using some new technology. And if you know anything about me, I'm actually very technologically challenged. And it's almost amazing, nothing short of amazing and a miracle that I run an online business because there's a bit of technology involved and somehow I do it. So here we are. First of all, I want to welcome you. If you've been with me for any length of time, you've probably seen that last year and earlier this year, I was doing a remote work show all about working remotely. But I have now broadened that out much more to talk more about remote life and specifically how to sustain your remote lifestyle through either remote work or remote business. So I'm going to expand the show to cover all of those topics. Excellent. I'm seeing a lot of chat come in. I'm really excited about that. Maybe tell me where you're watching from. Oh, actually, I can see it says Facebook. So no one yet on YouTube, but that's okay. So again, welcome to the show. Now let me talk a little bit about what this show will be about. Now, when I used to do the remote work show, up until March of this year, I was really angling it more towards people who were looking to RV full-time and looking to work remotely in some capacity, whether that was, you know, with an employer or freelancing or even maybe starting their own business, but I wasn't covering that as much. And that was all pre-COVID. All of my content and all of the things I taught was really pre-COVID, although I did do a little bit in March. That was really right when all of that was unraveling. Well, now we're in a very, very different place today. As you all know, with COVID impacting so many businesses and employers and you, all from March all the way up until about, you know, the end of May, beginning of June. And just as things were picking up, now we see that a lot of the country is really kind of dialing it back. And so there will be more impacts to the remote world. So what I want to do in this series is talk a lot about what does the remote future look like, both for employment as well as is it a good time to start a remote business? So that's really what we're going to cover. Now, I want to introduce you to my new book. Oh, I see more people joining. Mike is joining me on YouTube. I love it. You're the best. Thank you. And Will is here and Vicky is here. This is fantastic. You guys, I made it work. Well, not just me, because I had Reed and Nicole who were also helping me, my amazing virtual assistants. And it took a team to get this working. So I'm like really, really excited. So let me tell you about the new book, the Remote Life, I have to remind myself what it's called, Remote Life Reinvention Guide. Actually, I think I have a picture of it here. Let me see if I know how to put it up on the screen. There it is in the right-hand corner. The Remote Life Reinvention Guide, top 10 questions and answers about how to reinvent yourself with remote work or business. I just got this book done and I got it sent out to my list this morning. So if you're on my list, grab it because there's a free copy in there. If you're not one of my email subscribers, no problem. After the live today, I'm actually going to go back in and put some links so that you have access to this as well. So in this book, I'm covering the top 10 questions and answers all around how to, not just about remote work, because, you know, I could talk about that all day, but again, it's really learning how to reinvent yourself in this new environment. And that could be reinventing yourself in a job, whether that job is done remotely or part-time or as you travel or from home, wherever, or if you go to Thailand like I did in 2018 and work remotely. Or maybe it's time for you to really consider a remote business. And so this guide is going to talk to you about all of those options, what to be thinking about. There's even some activities in the back of the book that will guide you through a decision-making process to get more clarity, because a lot of what holds us back sometimes is just being very cloudy in our vision and not really knowing for sure what direction we go. And rather than pick a direction, we keep waiting for the clarity. So this guide will hopefully help you navigate some of that cloudiness and get more clear. Oh, Kathy's here. She says the guide was amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. By the way, I owe a lot of thank yous because I asked people to vote on a cover yesterday. And I was like, my heart was warmed. Is that right? My heart was warmed. I don't know. I had a full heart because so many people commented, and this was on the Facebook page, and told me their favorites. And then people even went above and beyond to tell me what to do differently to make the cover better. So if you voted, or if you gave me some advice, thank you, because you made this book be so much better than what it was. So I really appreciate that. So anyway, that's what the guide is about. Like I said, either you got it in an email from me today, or you will get it after the live. I'll put some links. Now, for today, here's what I want to talk about specifically. And then every week, by the way, on Wednesdays, at this same time, I'm going to be doing these mini trainings. That's what I call it. And I'm going to use the guide for these mini trainings so that you can follow along each week. So today, here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the future of remote work in general. Oh, look at this. I can put Kathy's quote up. I know how to do that now. That's so cool. So I'm going to talk about what does the future look like for work and remote work in particular, because we are seeing so much change happen quick, very fast, way faster than I ever thought. And so that is really going to impact all of us. So I'm going to talk about that today. So that's actually, if you open up your guide, if you grab this later, that's actually going to be starting on page 4 in the guide. Number 1, what does the future of remote work look like? Then I'm going to be covering question 2 all around if you think you're not qualified. And finally, question 3, what if you're not good with computers, i.e. technology like me? So that's what we're going to cover today. So let's see, working on YouTube. Excellent. This is really exciting for me. Mike says he just waved at me. I'm waving back. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about the future of remote work. I'm sure that all of you are following the news. And probably we're all following the news too much these days. It's a little addicting, isn't it? So what we all know is that since March of this year, so many jobs changed, or so many jobs were lost. If you were one of those people, my heart goes out to you. You know, I've been laid off before. I have been terminated before. It is a very difficult thing to go through. If you lost a business, I know a lot of students, not a lot, but a number of students in my course lost a business because it was brick and mortar. It was a physical business. And thankfully, in some of those cases, I got to work with those folks on how to actually change their business model to do some stuff online so that they could still generate revenue. So that, you know, there was a silver lining there. But we all know the impacts. And unfortunately, in June, I think we all got false excitement that things were starting to open back up. We saw people rehiring. We saw jobs coming back. But unfortunately, I knew this, and I bet a lot of us knew this, I think that was all temporary. I think we just kind of had a month where we forgot that there was a pandemic. And so it's here. I believe it'll be here for a while, and I believe it will reshape completely how we work. So if you're not already working remotely, you probably will be soon. Now, here's the thing I want you to think about. You've got 2 options on this remote thing. Option number 1 is that you're forced into working remotely before you're ready, and that is no fun. That happened to a lot of my students who, yeah, they were in remote work school, but they weren't ready to go remote like the next day. That happened to my dad, who is 77 and was driving to teach people how to play flute in person. It happened to my aunt, who teaches acting classes. All of these people who used to do things in person or physically had no option and were forced into remote work. My dad fought me the whole time until he finally had no more choice. And now I'm so excited he teaches online, which is so cool. So that's option number 1, is you're forced into it. Option number 2, hey Will, is that you choose it. and you choose it before you're forced. And this is a much, much better option. So if you're in a position where you've got a little time, where you're not, in a dire need to make money tomorrow. I mean, we all have that. We all do, really. But if you've got some time, if you know what's coming, then I really urge you to start now. Really start learning how to work remotely today. Do not wait, because the more that you learn how to do it, the more marketable you're going to be. You'll have access to more jobs. You will be in a much better position to negotiate for your pay. You're just going to be in a better leveraging position if you start now. So again, the guide that I mentioned to you that's in the upper right-hand screen, that will really help you get prepared. Now, there are other things you can do outside of this guide, which I'll talk about a little later, but really the thing is you've got to start now. In fact, I have a quote in the guide. This comes from research from Upwork that 39% of hiring managers have seen or expect layoffs at their organizations, and they predict only 53% of laid off employees will come back. Half the jobs, okay? So now the good news is a lot of those jobs will be turned into remote jobs. So the good news is in the future, if we've got a silver lining here, there will be a lot more remote jobs in the future. So that's good news. All right, I'm gonna check the chat. No more chats coming in that are new. If you're here, if you're joining me, please feel free to leave something in the chat and ask questions, because I'm answering questions live. So now we're gonna go to number 2 in the guide. I'm covering the first 3 questions. Number 2 says, what if I'm not qualified to work remotely? I hear this all the time. I hear this from students. I hear this from people who read our More Than a Wheelin' blog. I hear this from my people in my family and my friends. Here's the thing. Everyone is qualified to work remotely, even if you don't think so, and even if you've never had a remote job. Why do I say that? Because in some way, and this is going to tie into question 3, 2 and 3 go together. 3 is all about if you feel like you're not good with computers or technology. So I'm just going to bundle these 2 up together, just to kind of make this go faster. The reality is you are working remotely. You already were. Maybe it wasn't with an official job. Maybe you didn't get paid to do it. But look, you were hanging out on Facebook before. You were watching YouTube videos. You're watching this video today, so you're working remotely. You probably watch Netflix. You've probably jumped on a million Zoom meetings in the last 3 months. You are, in fact, working remotely, or you have the ability to work remotely because you are doing things in a remote world. If you use email, if you save photos in a cloud, if you take photos on an iPhone or an Android and you save them to the cloud, I could go on and on about how you are actually qualified to work remotely because you're already hanging out online and doing things online. It's a matter of adapting your skills and your experience into a specific job type. So in the workbook, in this guide, I actually have you do some activities in the back where you're going to go through and write down, where are you hanging out online? Where are you already working remotely, whether you're getting paid or not? So that you can remember that you actually have what it takes. You just have to take that experience and then apply it into a specific job type, which I'm going to talk about later in this series. I will dig much deeper into job types, businesses you can start online. I'm going to go deep in this series, and I'm going to give you a lot of really helpful and practical information. Oh, we've got a new person. We've got Richard. So good to see you. Hello from Champagne. I love it. Very fancy. All right, so today what we covered, I want to recap before I sign off. By the way, you can ask questions. And if you don't ask questions live, but you think of something later, or if you're catching the replay of this, then you can always ask questions then, and I always go back in and check the chat. You can also reach me at morethanawheelin.com if you want to get on my subscriber list and get some of my free goodies, although I'll give this to you after live. You can do that as well. All right, so again, we've got the Remote Life Reinvention Guide, the top 10 questions and answers about how to reinvent yourself with remote work or business. It's free right now. And today I covered what the future of remote work will look like. We all know that jobs are going remote. This is the future, and you have an option to either choose remote work or have it forced upon you. I hope that you choose it. This guide will help you do that. Number 2, I covered if you think you're not qualified, why you are actually qualified for remote work. And then I gave you specific ways that you're already using technology, because if you're like me and you're scared of technology and you have dread around technology like I do, then you might have a mental block and think that you can't do it. But I'm telling you, you are already hanging out online. If you're here, then you're already using some advanced technology. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I'm not seeing any specific, here's a question from Renee. Oh, it's so good to see you. Let's look at her question. What if we don't know how to use a program like Asana or Slack? How do we address that in our cover letter? Fantastic question. Here's the deal. And hi from Iowa. So here's the thing, Renee. First of all, Asana and Slack, just so everybody knows, these are project management tools. I use them all the time. First of all, you want to think about when you're using a new tool like that you already have some experience with some type of technology or tools that are similar. For example, if you've ever used Microsoft Office or Microsoft Projects, if you've used some calendaring tools, if you've used an Excel spreadsheet to track a project, then you know project management. The fact that you may not know a specific tool like Asana or Slack is irrelevant. Here's why. It's not so much about knowing how to use the tool, it's do you have the skill to manage a project? Because when you get hired by an employer who maybe uses these tools, one employer might use Asana, the next one might use Trello, the person after that might use Basecamp, and you're gonna have to learn a new tool at any point. The reality is you can learn a new tool, no problem. If I can learn a new tool, you can certainly learn a new tool. And they all have free training, and they're all very user-friendly for the most part. So I don't want you to be nervous about the tool itself. If an employer says, do you have background in this? Here's what I would do. I would go online, I would get a free account for anything they're asking for if you really want the job. And I would start playing around and I would take a couple tutorials. And then, yes, on your cover letter and resume, you can say, I have experience using Asana and Slack or whatever else tool they're asking you about. I would be very proactive about that. I hope that helps, but if you have another question, please let me know. All right, we are almost 20 minutes in. That was a great question. If y'all have other questions, again, I'm happy to answer them for you either now or at the replay. And once again, at the end, I will go in and put a link to the new book. And with that, we're gonna sign off for today. I think we can call this a success. I think I showed up in a bunch of places today and I saw the chat. I hope the video is decent. It might not be, but I'll work on it. And thanks again, you all, for joining me today. And I can't wait to dig in with you on this series on remote life reinvention, how to reinvent yourself remotely in work or business.